Oh my goodness. I loved this film. I like cannot even express enough to you. I think it's one of my all-time favorites of the year. I
Means everything.
absolutely
Thank
adored
you.
it. No, like I absolutely adored it. I truly mean that. I mean, I know that you've done like a lot of work as an actor, so I'm so curious about what kind of led you to, going more into the writing and directing space in recent years.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I think I always wanted to. I just didn't know if other people would like kind of take me seriously in that way of like, I have these stories inside of me that I really want to tell. And, I've experienced a lot of stuff in my life and I feel like I could, really help people with being honest about my struggles or my life or these different things. So, that's kind of what started the path of having the bravery to be like, hey, I'm writing these things and I really believe in it and I really want to direct and all of this stuff. And then truthfully, I don't always talk about this because I like to keep it positive, but I got dropped by all my reps while I was on maternity leave, 2-week-old baby in my arms. And it was like the scariest thing that I've ever been through. But at the same time, it made me go, I am done asking for permission. I am doing this. I'm going to write this story. I'm going to give my all to develop it and to try and make these films that matter and to use my voice. And that's how Continue came about. I mean, honestly, me and my husband, like I like to say we leveraged the house because we basically did. Like we invested every time we had, we raised every dime of the capital for Continue. And that became my several year passion project to get off the ground. And I just knew it was the opportunity to like prove who I was as a creator and that like I was meant to do this. And then, luckily a lot of people really resonated with my work on Continue. And then that brought, that Cassian was an EP on that film. And then that brought Desperation Road about. And, I like to say like on my way to my passion, because acting had been all I had like ate, slept, and breathed since I was a young girl. But on my way to my passion, I found my vocation, something that you feel like you're like meant to do, that it kind of made everything make sense that I had been through in my life, because now all of a sudden I had all of these stories inside of me that I thought could help other people, if that makes sense.
Really? Yeah. Well then what was it about Desperation Road that really stood out to you? I mean, like, did you like the book, or I mean, like, were you given the screenplay and it just, kind of resonated with you?
Yeah. So Cassian originally, he had done a different film with Michael, the writer of the novel, and he had given him Desperation Road. And upon reading it, Cassian was like, I know the director, like Nadine has to do this. And so he brought the script to me and I read it several times. I'm very like precious. I have to like feel it with my whole body before I make these decisions. You just have to feel like this is the only thing my voice can, like, I have to put my voice to this. And so I read the script several times. I read the novel. And, the thing that really resonated with me was this beautiful, I'm a mother. So like this beautiful story of this mother who's just really trying to provide for her child and like just being so beaten down by life. I think we can all feel that in different levels of our life, So, and, there was this one line, I always say this, but where she says, not everybody has someone. And I could really relate to that, and I thought to myself, I wonder how many other people out there could relate to that too, not really having somewhere to turn when life gets really hard. So, that was one of the things that really like pulled me towards this film, but also the multi-perspective, like in the ensemble of it all, like all of these different people and all of their different struggles. And I really wanted to tackle all of their storylines because I felt that they all had something really important to say. I felt like Larry could really talk to mental health and addiction. I felt like, the fears of a father through Mitchell and loss and loneliness. And, so there just was so many levels of humanity to it. And, so thus started the journey of like really working with Michael to be like, okay, well, this is what's very important to me in the story. And this is what's important to you. And so let's find the balance and let's cultivate, because it's hard when you have like a almost 300-page novel. You feel like you get to like really say everything you want to say, but in a script, you have to say it in way less time and way less pages. So it was like, okay, let's really develop what's important to both of us and like what we think the most elevated message could be. And that started the journey. And me and Michael had such a great collaborative process that it was like, once I met him, I was like, okay, I'm in 100%. I have to tell this story. So that's what started the path.
Well, I mean, as you were kind of saying, the mother and daughter relationship is, oh my gosh, such a big part of this film. And I mean, it came off as so incredibly authentic. I would love to know how you kind of worked with the actors to form that bond that came off on screen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes an extreme amount of trust, and I feel incredibly lucky that there was this like beautiful relationship, collaborative process and trust between all of us, like almost instantly. It was kind of like, you know, when you say like, I found my people, and it was like, I found the actors for this movie. They were so committed and they were so game, and like, you know, you don't know how each person's process is going to be and how they're going to be, like, how receptive or not. And it was just like, they took it all as truth, and then they brought their own truth to it. And so it was just like a beautiful, like, unearthing of who these characters really were, and what we wanted to say through them, and what their struggles and all of those beautiful things. But truthfully, I will say, in regards to the mother-daughter relationship in particular, that is also very much Willa. Like, Willa spent every waking moment with Piper Braun, our little girl, very talented little actress, but they spent every moment together. I mean, they, every weekend they went and saw movies together. They were like, yeah, I mean, it was bowling. Like, she really made sure that that bond and that relationship was there. And like, so it wasn't like, Piper was so comfortable. She just, like, everyone supported her, and especially the person playing her mother. So it was just like, you know, it wasn't just the direction and the acting. It was also the artist that took it on, that took that relationship very seriously. So I'm so lucky, you know, that they were so committed. And Willa in particular was just incredible.
Well, I mean, we have Maben, who, I mean, she definitely isn't a character who trusts easily, you know, and for good reason. She's been through so much. I am curious, you know, why you feel she was able to kind of open up to Russell relatively early on. What was it about him that you think really kind of formed that bond from the get-go?
I mean, I will say this about Garrett Hedlund, like, who played Russell, is like, he has this like innate lovable character, like, characteristic to him. Like, I've recognized that from before I ever even met him. And then he became, like, from our first meeting, he became one of my closest friends. And I think he brought this love to Russell, you know, and this like vulnerability that kind of had a way of softening her walls a little bit. But I will say, when you're at your lowest low and you really don't have a lot of options to turn, and like, I think about that all the time, like the isolation Maben must have been feeling, like sexual assault and, you know, on the run, and the trauma of taking someone's life, you know, like, these were all things we were really talking about. And so along comes someone, and it's like the first person who's actually tried to help you. I feel like no matter how guarded you are, it's probably also like a life raft. You're like someone, you know, someone who cares, like a little piece of humanity, you know, and that was something that was really important to me with this story in particular. It was like, you know, if we could get the audience to empathize and realize, like, one act of kindness could change someone's life. You know, like, if you were to do something kind for someone who is at a complete low and has no one else to turn, you have no idea what that can do for someone's life, you know? And so I think, like, when we were talking about it and kind of with the entire characters and like, why does she trust him? So, you know, I think when you have nowhere else to turn, you know, maybe you'll do something that's kind of out of characteristic for you, which is trust, you know, when maybe it's not in your first nature. But I do think, because you could feel that love and warmth from Russell, no matter like what he's saying, his eyes just, like, you know, they have this softness and vulnerability to him. So I think it definitely helped to get Maben to lower her walls a little.
Oh my gosh. And their relationship is so layered. I mean, there's so many things going on there. I am super curious if you wanted there to be any kind of romantic undertones there, or if you wanted this to be like a purely platonic kind of familial relationship.
I was very, very adamant that I did not want romance at all. And I was like, I know every woman will be like, will imply the romance is there. Like, I even saw someone sent me like a screenshot, because I was always like, no, no romance. I want it to be out of the goodness of their heart. I want it to be like family. I don't want people to think like you have to have a romantic connection to do something kind for someone else, to help someone, right? But then it was like, oh, I love that Maben and Russell are together in the end, and like all. I'm like, people imply like that is the truth though. The audience determines the story. We can set it up however, but it's how they ingest it, what they see, what they feel. And there's people who have theories that they're a couple now. And I'm like, well, I mean, whatever makes you happy. I didn't see it that way, but at the same time, like, I love love. So I'm like, sure, I love love, but it was something when making it that I really didn't want there to be romantic undertones. I wanted it to be out of the goodness of their heart. And then especially once they find out who they were, I was like, I just feel like when you know that you're responsible for taking the father from this child and the love from this woman, like, it is okay for you to redeem yourself and to have forgiveness, but I don't want them to think that you did it because you want to date her now, Does that make sense? I didn't want to cheapen it.
No, that makes perfect sense. No joke. That is literally how I interpreted it.
Okay, good.
Exactly what I said. But yeah, I was very curious. I was like, could there, maybe one day, or I was very curious. So,
well, we definitely have. There's like such good chemistry that you're like, maybe people are like, maybe one day it might happen. And I was like, listen, and like, I can't tell the future. Maybe one day it will, but right now it's out of the kindness of his heart,
Oh my goodness. Well, another character I want to talk to you about is Boyd. Because man, he is pulled in a million different directions, because of his job, because of his friendship. What kind of conversations did you kind of have with the actor about, all the things that are going through his head during this film?
I mean, me and Woody had so many conversations about him being pulled in by like a thread in every direction, kind of like having to battle. Like we all have those friends, or maybe some people do, that they've been friends all their life, so it's like their parents are your second parents. Like you drink beers and hid in that barn, like, and now you're having to come here in a completely different way. And like, and he is someone that like, we always talked about, like, you are driven by your moral compass, like good is good and bad is bad. And that's what made you take this job. But what happens when those lines get blurred? Like, what does that mean for you as a character and as a person? And like, what he's asking you to do is like risk everything. And like, so there was so many conversations, and honestly, it was so hard at times because I'm like, poor Boyd, it's like, these were his best friends. This is like, that's why one of the things that was really important to me, like, it's so silly, but I wanted them to have matching best friend tattoos. It was something like I added to the script. It was like something that was very quick to show that like relationship and bond through something so simple as having their football numbers tattooed on their chest that they got. And like, just like I had created that they had these dreams of leaving together and going and playing professional football together. And, so it's like all this stuff that no one will ever know. Like, it's just this backstory we create, but yeah, I just feel like Woody took all of these different things that we talked about, embodied it in such a beautiful, powerful way. And like, I mean, for me, like when he's walking away from that crime scene and he has that like emotional moment, like my eyes get teary every time I watch it. And I'm so proud of Woody and the work that he did in this film and that, we created together. It was such a beautiful collaboration. He really is an actor who like gobbles up anything you tell him and then like embodies it in his own way, So it was really cool to see what a whisper in the ear like manifested into through him, of like, okay, this is the first time, like, remember, like, Mitchell knows the day you lost your virginity. Like, he knows everything about you. Like, it's like, now how are you going to come to him and be like, what's happening? And like stand to him as like a man of the law and like have him take you seriously, And then Mel brings so much humor to like different moments that like, it was just a great dynamic and like, power dynamic to watch unfold.
What did you enjoy most about the family dynamic that forms, not just between, Russell and Maben, but, between all of them, Russell's father, Maben's daughter, they all kind of like, come together. So, what really spoke to you about that?
Well, for me, it was like very much like one of the storylines or the things that excited me the most about this film in particular, because not all of us have the family we're born into, and sometimes what we have and what we're lucky enough to find is the family we choose along the way, and like, so, they might not, Maven and Annalie might not be members of that family, but they become members of that family, and they will protect them the same way they would protect, his own son and all of that. And so that's one of the things that was important when I ended up, cultivating and working on the script, when it ended up being Mel with the gun and all of those different things, is because like, I wanted it very clear, like that's their family now too. And Mel would do anything for Maben just as much as he would for Russell. And, like, that's why one of my favorite scenes is that montage when they're just on the farm. And like, I wanted the farm to feel like the first breath Maben and Annalie got to take in the film. It's like, it feels like vast. All of a sudden the music gets kind of folky. Like, we wanted the whole film to feel like a little bit of relief for that little girl and mom, because it's the first relief they've found and it's kind of their safe haven. And then it only gets warmer and more safe as the days go on, until obviously Boyd shows and things start to come crashing down. But yeah, I guess for me, one of the things I loved is, not all of us have the family we're born into. It's the family we choose or we find along the way, Well,
I'm super curious where you kind of picture these characters a few years in the future. I mean, do you think that they're all going to, stick together? Maybe Maben, will move on. I'd love to know your thoughts.
Oh my God, I love this question. I don't think I've got to like really fully think about it. I mean, for me, I'm like very much like, I love hope in the end of a story. And so I think I've always just assumed that they would be there all together on that farm, and that they have a little family. And yeah, like, it's funny because I've had this conversation. I'm like, I wonder what happens like when Russell gets a girlfriend, or like if Maben finds somebody, or like what happens in the future with them. And like, did Russell and Maben ever get together? I was adamant not during our part of the story, but like, who knows, But I think for me, I like to think that that family never got separated, that, that they found family in each other. And I like to believe that also Boyd became like part of that family too. That's like what was one of the things that was so important to me in the ending, was getting to see that Boyd and Russell's friendship, while that was a big ask and like something that could totally strain the relationship, that it's still there, just through that little smile to each other. So, I want to believe that they'll all be together and that they'll have a beautiful future, especially a lot easier future than maybe the life they've had in the past. I'm like, I hope it got easier for them. I hope they have a happy ending.
I do too. I have my fingers crossed for all of that.
Me too. We're like, we're going to have a sequel just so we can see that they're okay.
Yeah, it's just the sequel of everyone being happy. That's all.
Yeah, literally.
Well, lastly, I just wanted to ask, now that you've kind of got Desperation Road under your belt, what are you hoping to do next? Like, I know you said you want to do more directing. So do you have any upcoming projects that you'd like to work on?
Yeah. I mean, I was actually already supposed to be filming my third film with a dear friend and my producer, Robbie Brenner, who Barbie, Dallas Buyers Club, like one of my idols as a creator. And she was on my vision board, and, I manifested her into my life, and she's now become one of my closest friends. And so we have multiple projects together, but my next film is Vanished, and we have some very exciting cast attaching now. I can't say it yet, but I'm so excited and I cannot wait to make this movie. So we're just waiting for, obviously, hopefully the strikes to resolve very soon here. And then we'll be on our way with the film Vanished. And then we also have a film that I wrote called Dear Son that we are casting as we speak and putting together. And that film is like another very personal one for me. Like the whole premise comes from these letters that I've written my son since he was born. And so in the actual film is some letters that I have written my son like throughout his life. And so it's very personal and beautiful. And it's kind of like my story about addiction and trauma and childhood trauma and how you heal from that. And it's a really beautiful, dark, but hopeful story. And I'm, all of my films have an aspect of charity. So we're donating a portion of the proceeds. I donated, a big portion of the proceeds of my personal points to mental health and suicide prevention. With Dear Son, we are going towards mental health, suicide prevention, and Alzheimer's. And then I have a film, Love Me to Oblivion, which we're putting together now as well, which has a big portion going to domestic abuse. So, I really try and use my voice, not just for films and messages that I think can help people, but through actually bringing change within the space and impact, with the projects that I write and I choose and all of that. So I'm really excited. I can't wait. I just can't wait to keep making films. But I will say, one of which I do have a plan to have a role in. So I'm like, all right, I'll find my way back in front of the screen, at least in one of them. I've been talking to them. I'm like, I think I'll play a small role in this one. And, so I'll still get to let my acting wings fly. But, it's so crazy to me that how different life can these different twists and turns it takes, it's like, I don't know that I knew that I'd act again. And then I was like, no, actually, this is a story I want to be into, so, I guess we'll just see how it manifests. I'm just really excited to continue out into the world. And, I really think that message can help people. So, and I'm in that one, so that'll be fun.
Oh my goodness, that's so wonderful. I'm so excited to see these.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait. And then we have to talk again.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my goodness. Awesome. Yeah, well, I will go ahead and let you go, but thank you so much for chatting with me. Oh my gosh, it was so great to hear your insight behind the film.
Well, and I just have to tell you too, these are amazing questions. Not a single question I've received from anyone else. So it was so fun too, to be like, oh, I've never thought of this, or getting to answer questions you haven't heard yet. So great questions. Thank you so much.
Yay. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you enjoyed the film. Thank you for watching, for the support.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Nadine. And you guys, have a great weekend.
You too. Have a beautiful weekend.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.